It is my greatest pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker, Mr. Feng Li. Feng is the founding partner of Free As Fund and the former partner of IDG Capital. He led investments on a series of successful projects, including Credit Ease, Zhubajie, Prosper, Three Squirrels, Bilibili, and many more. Among them, Credit Ease went public in 2015. Zhubajie and Prosper successfully joined the $1 billion club. Feng led the establishment of IDG Excel's post-investment service system, providing help to early-stage startups. Services include public relations, marketing, and human resources. Feng obtained a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from Peking University and a Master of Science in Chemistry from the University of Rochester. Today, we're honored to have him as our opening keynote speaker to share with us his insights on artificial intelligence. Please.
It's a great honor to be here again, and then this is the sixth consecutive year of being at the CMU Summit. So it's really, again, the great honor, and then it's really glad to be here again. Hopefully it will still going to be another like 6 or more years coming along. And then so far, the great achievement at the CMU Summit for the past 5 years is actually we managed to convince the first CMU Summit chairman to join our team, which you just saw that on the video. His name is Ma Rui, and then he actually started the CMU Summit. CMU Summit from like 6 years ago, and then again, just let me present him, introduce him a little bit as the first CMU Summit chairman, and then start the event. So will you start up stand? So again, congratulations on the successful launch, and then this is not me. Congratulations on the successful launch of the event, and then for the past 5 years. Apparently not AI, right? There's actually people talking about this might not be a wise choice in talking about AI specifically in the CMU, but that's actually definitely the reason why we are here, and then we're trying to learn more. So we take a little bit of a risk to talking about our perception of the AI investment. Good thing is not AI, and then the other good thing is like this is the first thing in the morning, so there are not many people so far. So it may not be as risky as talking about this 2 hours later. Our perception on our investment in the AI industry, probably you know or you may not know, AI is actually much bigger hype as for now in China than even it's in the US. And then every startup need to at least have a concept on their business plan, saying like they're being an AI company. And then 1 year before, everyone has a concept on their presentation saying like they are a big data company. Now big data is not fashion anymore, so everyone switched to AI. So we're gonna have this all the way. I mean the song. Never mind.
你说我们现在这样做一点是吧？我刚才在跟也问了一下这个基本的 format 是吧？就是说大概
okay.
就是基本上是我讲是这意思。
So our understanding from the AI perspective is actually very different from its technology.
我这个 slide 那个其他的。
So we're gonna wait them to
对吧
continue or stop?
他们也可能没有时间。
Sorry, it's been in Chinese, and then this sentence basically is just our post a question, what's the AI for investment? And then from our understanding, it may not be right. It's just processing a way of data, and then a more effective way of building up the model as well to process the data. And then from that perspective, there are we usually internally we pose the question before we invested into any AI related things. It's actually because it's a more effective way and a model of doing the data. So the first question coming with where is the data coming from, and then why we need that to process. And then usually there are two answers. I mean, this may not be very comprehensive, but from our understanding, it's actually to answer the question where is the data coming from. There are two ways of answer of where is the data coming from. The first one is actually trying to. The first one is actually trying to let the offline data go online and then make it liquidate or make it circulate. And then that's one of the sources of where the so-called the big data coming from. So this explained a little bit of it in China. In US, it's a little bit different. In China, it's actually the SaaS and then the big data and then the AI. They looks like they overlap each other within 2 years of the range. I mean, from about a little bit more than 2 years ago, there is a big hype of the SaaS investment. From a bit over a year ago, there are very big hype of investment into big data, and then for now, it's very hot to invest in AI. So this is one thing. So I will not spend a lot of time on that. This explain for that source. One of the examples is actually the security-related image and then video-related. That's what we call the offline data go online. And then on the other hand, the other answer of the sources of where the data coming from is actually from our understanding for the past about 15 years or past 10 years, most of the data coming today is actually from what we call it we plug in a new sensor. A new sensor which we define as, first of all, it's very updated, and then it's very affordable, and then it's very industrial available. And then in that sense, we put new sensors into a device which we never had the sensor before, and then we connected the sensor, and then that's actually producing way more data than we expected before. So we take the first example as the cellular phone, and then the difference between the smartphone and then about 10 years ago, the difference between smartphone with the Nokia or the Motorola is actually we put a way much better camera into that smartphone, and then we put the acceleration sensor along with the gyroscope, GPS, microphone, etc. into that phone, and then we make it a smartphone. And then for those, we call it a new sensor, and we put it connected all the time. This is what we call make a new sensor, connected it to a device, and then make it online or make the data circulated. Then we produce the new data to come with the demand for AI. For any of the, this is the Alexa. For Alexa, usually this is just a speaker, and then we put a new sensor. We call it a new array of a microphone, and then along with the communication chip, or along we put the online the new data online, and then we form a new thing or a new so-called AI speaker, which is the Echo or Alexa. And then there are coming more. And then this is very famous for the past about 6 months in China. This is the so-called sharing bike. And then the most famous one about that is actually we put a GPS, a communication chip, onto a bike, and then we make it a sharing bike. And then from the consumer perspective, it's actually we know how many bikes are around us, and then where precisely the bike is, and then we can hop on the bike and then pay very small amount to use it for half an hour or an hour, and then being charged for that half an hour or 1 hour. This is the so-called new thing. We put a sensor which have never been put on the bike before, which is the GPS, and then put them online, and then we produce a lot of new data. And then first of all, we produce a very new business model. And then for all these examples, I can list more, because basically as before, as the military drone, we put the new gyroscope and then the new acceleration sensor along with the communication chip onto the military use the drone and put them into affordable level. I mean, the new sensor means affordable. And then we make a DJI, or we make other drone company currently. This is what we call the new trend. We put a new sensor, but new sensor we define it as first of all updated, second of all affordable, third of all very industrial ready. And then we put that into a new device which never has that sensor before, and then we get that connected, or we put the data online, and then we make a lot of new data. And then first, at the first stage after that sensor happened, usually it comes up with the business model, how to utilize the new data. And then probably the second stage will be when the data coming as the streaming or coming as a large volume, we're using much more better technology such as the AI to process that data. This is a little bit similar to what happened to the computer industry before. First of all, when we invent the computer, we invent a very new data input model, which is the keyboard, the keypad, and then we input a lot of we input a lot of data using that keypad, and then we are coming with the first stage, such as the Poto or Yahoo, for example, try to utilize that new data, the work, to arrange them. And then we're coming down to the Google age, which we need a little bit more efficient technology, let's say AI, to trying to arrange the supply and then demand on the new data, which is the work, to put it in a more efficient order to match up the supply and demand. So this is what we see in the PC industry, and then we're going to be witness a lot of new things similar to that path, but happen in many different ways by the chance or by the means, like those new devices being connected and then being add on new sensors to them. But I'm taking the bike for a little bit of example. Sometimes the business model is just a little bit ahead of the technology. So from the investment perspective, when we do the AI investment, we're first asking or raise the question, where is the data coming from? And then when the data coming from, like we put a new sensor onto a new device and then get connected, we get a large volume of data. But sometimes the new sensor is not mature enough to be added on to the device, such as a little bit of the AR or VR. And then the business model after that will be paused a little bit or being postponed a little bit. But for China, things are different because there are too much money. For example, the bikes. There are one interesting phenomenon happened. It's actually there are strong competition between the two major players on the sharing bike. One of them doesn't have any of the GPS or the electronic lock and then the communication chip built in them. And then currently they're under a lot of controversy, like this is hard for a municipal to manage these bikes because they're going to be thrown all over the street. So the other one who has the GPS has one critical problem, because usually when you ride the bike, you need to spare about 1/3 of your energy to charge the battery. For the reason, it's very hard to gauge between the two rides of this new bike, whether or not the battery will hold on to the GPS and then make it work for people or for the management to find the bike on wherever it is. And then at the same time, the GPS is not that precise enough because it's a bike and it will not move by itself when it stops. Or when it park. So it's very hard to find the bike as long as it's not precisely positioned. So this is the two problems with specifically the new bike. And then on the other hand, even though there is a lot of money thrown into that industry, still the lock of the bike, the lock including the GPS, including the electronic lock, and then including the communication chip, for all that set, that will take about a little bit more than 500 RMB so far, and then cannot be cost out for the reason of the technology of the GPS and then the battery to enable the whole thing is not there yet. By it's not there yet, I mean like this is business model is a little bit ahead of the technology. Because from our understanding, usually we need a very energy cost efficient GPS, or on the other hand, we need a very good battery power to enable the whole thing, and then trying to make it cost down, which we call the new sensor happen, and then add on to a new device. So this is a little bit of interesting phenomenon for China as for now, the sharing bike, but just there are too much money pouring into that industry, so still the business model is a little bit ahead of the technology. When we explain the AI, usually we see the sequence. First of all, some of the new sensor being innovated, being disrupted, and then so that they can be small, they can be affordable, and then they can be very updated, and then they can be industrial available, and then they can be added on to a device, and then get connected. And when these things happen, they're coming with the second generation, which is the business model innovation, trying to utilize that new data. Like the Uber are using the GPS, are using the gyroscope and then the map, etc. And then Airbnb are using the camera as the new data, and then they're using the GPS as the new data as well. So they're using the two sensors dimension data to produce a business model which match the supply and demand much more efficient. This is pretty much like the what we call the Portal or the Yahoo generation at the PC. And then finally, we're going to be coming down to the age of Google, which we need a much more efficient technology processing to matchmaking the new data between supply and demand. And then taking the bike, for example, even though this is the general sequence of how things happen during the past tens of years, but sometimes we can see example like the business model is a little bit ahead of the technology, even though the sensor it is not that ready to enable the whole business model, but we still can use money to cope with that. So this is a couple of examples how we understand the artificial intelligence so far. And then accidentally or coincidentally, the artificial intelligence, the new technology of processing the data happened in the latest couple of years for the reason we have accumulated so many new dimensions of data, specifically because of we have so much updated so many updated new sensors industrial available, and then we can put them online and then make them connected, and then that contribute to dramatically a new dimension of the data, and that specifically from our understanding, historically perception, AI, artificial intelligence, a new way of processing the data technology happened specifically in this time of the history. So this is our understanding of the artificial intelligence. And then for the same reason, for the time issue, I will not taking up more time, and then we're going to give the time to all the great startups and then startup competition after that. And thanks for your time and attention.